So if you were surprised by the news about Michael Flynn's guilty plea today, imagine how the White House felt. There are reports out tonight that many there didn't see this news coming. But is this news, what we heard today, any different from the previous indictments stemming from the Russia probe? Well, let's bring in Seth Waxman. He's a former federal prosecutor, and he's up late with us on the Final Five. Hi, Seth. How are you? We woke up today. We got the news about what happened. Anything major that we should be following here?
Well, clearly it looks like we're moving up the ladder. We've moved away from Papadopoulos and people who have been characterized as, coffee holders to someone much closer now to the top of the Trump administration, the national security advisor. And when you look at it, we're starting to run out of people who are close enough or closer to Trump. The people that are left are his son-in-law, his son, and really the very top operatives within the Trump campaign and transition team. So
the charge that he pleaded guilty on was lying to the FBI. There were some headier charges that they could have filed against him that they reportedly were looking at. So why do you give him that sort of deal without the expectation that there might be something to gain from it?
Well, every plea bargain is just that, a bargain. So on the one hand, the government wants the information. On the other hand, the potential defendant, or in this case now defendant, wants a deal. So there's that give and take. Now, from what we've seen, it seems very clear that there's additional information that Michael Flynn is providing to the prosecutors, and that information, in all likelihood, will go to a wider charge that may involve conspiracy to influence the 2016 election. So while Mr. Flynn got a deal, and a good one at that, others that are seeing what's happening and know that they are now in further jeopardy are probably feeling the pressure.
So there are people out there who look at this news, and people who are not fans of the president are thinking, this is it. This is the big fish. And there are other people who are looking at this from the perspective of, look, he just made contact. It doesn't necessarily mean there was outright collusion there.
Well, I agree with that, and I think it's far too premature to say that this is it. In fact, the conversations that Michael Flynn had with the Russians probably are not illegal in and of himself. There's a very obscure law called the Logan Act that frankly has never been used to prosecute anyone in this country under these circumstances. But when I look at this, I try to think, well, why is Michael Flynn lying to FBI agents? And I look back at the original investigation into the election, and what I start to see is this may have been part of a cover-up. So if the Russians and the Trump group colluded or conspired prior to the election, and President Obama sanctioned one of those co-conspirators, the Russian group, for tampering with the election, and now, as we understand it, Jared Kushner sends Michael Flynn to talk to the Russians and say, look, don't worry, we'll take care of this, we'll be in office in 20 days, please don't ratchet this up. And then when the FBI asks him those very questions, he lies about it. You start to see that this could be more about the cover-up of the original crime than something of that much moment in and of itself.
How much of this do you think goes back to the fact that you have an administration and they went in not part of Washington? They said, we're going to drain the swamp. We don't live by the rules of Washington. How much of this, when you have people like Jared Kushner, is ignorance of the law as it stands, or how much of it would be intentional?
Well, so ignorance of the law is no excuse under the law. So just putting that aside, I mean, you can't claim ignorance and avoid charges. But even with that said, these are very sophisticated individuals with the top lawyers in this country. So it's very hard for me to believe that at some point, when you're reaching out to the Russians, for example, you aren't asking questions of those lawyers, or others within the group that you're associating with don't say, well, we should maybe check in on that. So it's difficult for me to reach the conclusion that this was just a series of mistakes and everybody was on the up and up with really no knowledge or intent. That's a tough pill to swallow.
So if we went into today not expecting this news to come down, I would suspect the next time something comes down, it's going to be another day where we're all caught off guard.
I think this is uncharted territory for everyone.
Everything is, Seth.
Yeah, no kidding. I don't know that it's always Friday that these things seem to come out,
right.
But, we'll probably be here a week or two or a month from now talking about the same thing and saying the same thing. Where's it going to end? And your guess is as good as mine right now.
All right, Seth Waxman, thanks for staying up with us tonight. Good to see you. And we're back after this on the Final Five.